New space looks great, Jeff.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it. How are you?
Doing well. Your mic sounds awesome too. Pod mic?
Ah, thanks. This is the Rode Pod mic, the OG.
I'm using the same one. I thought I recognized it.
Yeah. I like the clown nose on the new one, the second gen, because it's a little smaller. So I might switch to that. Hey, Heather. Welcome to the pre-call chat. We're all just catching up.
How are you guys doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Good, thank you.
Oh, now we've got a fearless leader in the room. We better behave.
Good afternoon. Yeah. No,
Not a chance.
By all means, just take it away. Take it away.
It was looking like the Jeff Veely show.
That's right.
See, where's the mute all button? It's got to be around here somewhere.
Yeah. Where's that? Allow, unmute themselves. No. Let's just get that going. No. Hey, everyone. Welcome. I'm sure we'll have a few more people slip on in, which is cool.
Hey.
Hey, hello. Hello, Barry. Hello, Barry. Welcome. All right. So I think we have some questions. So for those just joining, just put the questions in on the dashboard there. Ask a question, and that's how we will run through this time. I will just say that there's a little bit going on right at this moment. We try not to disrupt this this time slot. We just kind of keep it happening. But there's a few things that have converged at the same time. A couple of events that are happening that have some complexities to them. And so there could be a couple of moments where I see some notifications and then I look like I've frozen as my brain
disappear.
As my brain tries to switch into different gears. But we'll see. We'll see. There's a few moving parts that might mean that it doesn't interfere too much. So, but yes, but apart from that, I also have my children to get to school. So it will be a little bit shorter, but let's just see how we go. And so I encourage you not to delay putting your questions in, because I might not be giving you as much time at the end to come up with your questions. I'm looking at you, Franklin. You wait right to the end and then you put in a question. So so think of them now, because it could be that I get to the point and then I say, all right, see ya. So we'll see. But I think we've already got a few questions, Heather, and let's dive into them.
Yeah, so Amy posted that she had set up her moderators as part of the team with the ability to open rooms and start areas. They've been notified and accepted their notifications, but they still can't see the Zoom area button on the dashboard. This is for the organization Animal Chiropractic Education. The slug is ACEs.
Okay, let me have a look there. Do you know what they were seeing, Amy?
Yeah, they are just seeing the dashboard and the room that they are in. I set them up so they'd be able to open their own rooms.
Yep.
Because I was, inspired by our pods, and I said, I can put some of my students to work. They can go talk to each other.
Nice. Okay, I'm just having a look at your team setup. And is it moderator that you were calling? Is that the role that you're?
Yeah, that's the role that we were trying to get so that they could open their own Zoom meetings and let people in.
Okay. So I'm looking in the roles. Moderator looks
Yes.
okay. I'm just going to compare something else here. I won't share quite what I'm looking at here because of the sensitivity of some of that data. So
When
yep.
when I've gone in and pulled one of their links and opened it up in Cognito,
Mhm.
I see the dashboard, but I don't see the sidebar with the link to the Zoom area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, back-end users. And so you were logging in as them. How were you logging in as them? As in,
So I would copy their their magic link
okay.
and then
All right.
go in as a incognito.
Okay, that's the
page.
disconnect.
Oh, okay.
Thanks, Marty. You were kind of getting onto that as well. So when you're creating roles for people like this, that is to access the app.obv.io admin
Okay.
section, right?
Okay. Mhm.
So when they've accepted that role, they've accepted that account that they've been added to your organization, they need to log in at app.obv.io. They will then be accessing your organization in the same way that you do. And so,
Okay.
right, so they go through that and then they'll see your organization, they'll see your events within that organization, and then they'll click in there. And the difference will be that they won't be able to see as much as you see. They will just be able to see the Zoom rooms.
Okay.
They'll see that tab on the left-hand side. They can go there. They'll see the Zoom rooms. They can click it and then start.
Okay.
So, yeah. So you just want to think about. There's a bit of a sort of a training learning curve for them to go through it that way, and really it's team. And so you probably want to consider if that's the sort of experience that you want them to have.
It's okay for them.
Yep.
And we had made a little video to teach them how to do it, but I'm going to meet with them tomorrow.
Okay.
So I'll go through it with them and
Okay.
show them
Yeah,
how to do it. Because
okay.
they really are opening the room and welcoming other students in
Brilliant.
who they're
That's
there
it.
for. They're graduates. They've been, done and gone.
Yeah, great. That sounds like the exact type of person that you want to be doing that. And so you can think about, yeah, so the key thing is that they go back through a login. And we tend to we tend to use the term Obvio users versus attendees.
Okay.
And users are who can see the admin section and who can actually make changes to the site, to your event. And attendees are obviously that. They are people that only see the dashboard. That's all they have access to.
Yeah.
And so when we use those
Okay.
terms, how they access it, and from our point of view, a user and an attendee do not overlap at all. Even if they're using the same email address, they don't.
Okay.
They exist in very different places.
I think we had talked about that before, but I don't know that I heard the whole conversation and didn't have a
Gotcha.
chance to listen to the back. So thank you. I think that
Fair enough.
clears
That's
it up.
okay. It
I'll
sounds
clear it up
like
with them tomorrow.
Yeah, and it sounds like you've got it all set up. You've done everything right. It's now just that last bit of them logging in or logging back
Yeah.
in, because if they've accepted the invitation, then they were actually in the right spot at that point. They just had to go back to the organizations, and then they'd see the events and then move forward.
So what
It's
I've been
super
doing is
close.
I've been opening the rooms and then just making them the host and then diving out because I don't want to listen.
I see. Yeah, well, this is great. This is the perfect use case for that. Is that you teach them how to fish.
Yeah. Thank you. That
Great.
was the answer I needed.
Awesome. Okay. Next question, Heather.
Heather said, I have an A10 Pro. My client wants to do a live looking replay for his event. Please walk me through how to set that up through Obvio with an A10 Pro.
Small question, Grant. Production question.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Muddy, do you want to take this one? Are you able to do that? Thank you.
Yeah, sure thing. So the question is, how do you play a replay, kind of a simulated live video through an ATEM? And doing it through an ATEM, I think, is a good idea, because ultimately you want this to come in as a video feed, as opposed to through a screen share, right? Because a screen share kind of breaks the illusion. It's obvious that you're playing a replay, but if you have the video set up in the right way and you kind of introduce it and cut to it, you could get it to play through the ATEM and have it kind of appear more seamless. So in order to do this, it's really a two-part process. The first part is you need to get your video, you need to get the source ready. So you need some way to play the video, and ultimately you need to play that video to something that you can get into the ATEM as an HDMI source. And so the way that I might typically do something like this, there's a couple of different playback systems you could use. The way I have done it frequently is using OBS for playout. So I have one computer next to me that, in fact, you can kind of see it if I cut to this view. This whole computer right here, it's running, nice. It's running OBS, and I can load up a scene that has that video in it. And there's a setting within OBS when you have a video as a source in a scene, that when you cut to that scene, the video plays automatically. It starts automatically. And so as soon as I switch to that scene in OBS, that video will start playing. So that's what I set up as my playback source. There are other systems. There's hardware systems and other software systems. Playout B is another kind of software-based system. Yep.
Is there a way that's a little less production? Because I have to teach 3 assistants and they're not going to be able to do OBS on their computers. I thought I could just be able to play one off of a computer, like not using OBS. Is there another less technical way?
Here's what you need to be able to do. You need to be able to play the video full screen, and you need to have that screen get into OBS or get into the ATEM. So what you would do coming out of your computer, if you take your computer and you plug your computer's HDMI source into the ATEM, it shows up as if it were a second screen. Okay, and you can have that in mirroring mode, so both screens are identical, or an extended mode where that's kind of a new separate screen. And then essentially let's put it on mirror mode for simplicity, because that way whatever you see on your computer is also exactly what the ATEM is seeing. So if you play that video full screen on your computer, that's what that ATEM source is going to see. And so if you press play on your computer, make sure it's full screen, and switch to that source in the ATEM, that's now the video feed that's coming through the ATEM.
So could I, if I have a Mac, use QuickTime, open it up full screen, have that computer
Exactly.
be the
Yep.
source. Okay.
Yep. So
I
you
can do
would
that.
you plug an HDMI into there, and then you would just cut to it. And then the only thing you want to make sure is that your audio is also coming through. So on the ATEM, the big buttons at the bottom are the sources. The little buttons right above them are the audio for that source. So you just want to make sure that the audio is turned on for that source when you cut to it.
So question, if I'm doing that and I'm in the room, like making noise because I'm not staring, it's not going to pick up my noise. It's just going to pull from the video, right?
That's correct. It's pulling from that HDMI source. So it should not pick up your microphone or anything else that's happening in the room. It should just hear the computer audio.
Okay.
Yep.
And then how do I connect that to Obvio or to the Zoom Obvio? Do I need to have another computer? How would that work?
Yes, you'd want a second computer because your ATEM is connected to a computer with a USB cable.
Okay. And
that computer, you choose Blackmagic Design as your webcam, right? So once that's plugged in, the Blackmagic Design is one of the available cameras in Zoom, right? When you click the up arrow next to stop video, you can kind of pick which camera. When the ATEM is plugged in, Blackmagic Design is one of those options. And so when you pick it, whatever's going through the ATEM shows up as your camera. So that's the computer that's connected to Zoom and using Blackmagic Design as your camera.
Okay, so in Zoom, on video, you can select the video, you're going to select Blackmagic. On Zoom, on the audio, speaker and input, it's going to be Blackmagic too, as well.
The input is, yeah. The speaker doesn't need to be, but the microphone is, yeah.
Okay, so there's no, so I didn't open Zoom in second computer or Obvio Zoom. I'm open up into live, and then I select, and it's just going to literally feed through. It's going to just feed through. So when people come into the main stage, they're just going to look like it's like a regular Zoom call.
It's going to show as your video whatever is playing on that screen full screen. Yes. So as long as the replay is legit, right? It doesn't break into gallery view and then all of a sudden everyone's like, what the hell just happened, right? But yeah, as long as that is a clean replay, then yeah, it should be pretty seamless.
Good point. What do I need to put it on? Do I need to put it on not gallery view? What do I need to put it on so that that doesn't happen? Do I need to put it on? Do I need to?
Because you haven't recorded it yet?
No, I guess I just need to do a spotlight. Well, I guess no one's going to see that. So yeah, it's just going to be like regular view.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. What I'm talking about is the video that you're playing, the replay video that you're playing. You just want to make sure that that was a kind of speaker view the whole time.
No, for sure that is. But then on the replay, do I need to put speaker view so it just pushes that?
It doesn't matter. If people will be able to choose that on themselves, and since you'll have audio coming through, it will be the active speaker.
Okay.
Right. So if people are in active speaker mode, that's what they'll see on the big screen. I mean, you could spotlight it if you wanted to, but you wouldn't need to.
Okay. And I got the ATM Pro and I'm good to go, right?
Yes. And the biggest rule or the biggest advice I can give you, test it ahead of time, because there's lots of little nuances with audio and video, and you just want to make sure that everything's working the way you expect it to. So
one last question. Is it possible to, on the computer that's playing the replay, do I have to have that audio on, in the room or something, or can I turn it down and still push through? Kind of feel like I'm asking a stupid question, but
no, it's a legit question. The problem is if you mute that computer, it's going to mute the output. So because whatever the volume is of that computer, that's what's going out through the HDMI. So
okay, I think I got it. Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Muddy. That was great, and have a good play around. Lots of testing, as Muddy said. The thing you want to be really careful of is that you were just talking about wanting to make it really easy for your team to be able to play it out, and just doing it in QuickTime. What you want to be careful of is if you're doing it in QuickTime, then you'll have the interface will pop up on the screen when they move the mouse, and that will reveal your hand that this is not live. And so if you're trying to, and so the moment that comes up, people will be like, okay, this is a video and it's not live. If you're trying to make it seem like it's live, then you want to try to avoid that. And so you could do it in you could even play it out in PowerPoint or Keynote or something like that, where you wouldn't necessarily have, Justin, VLC has the ability to hide controls, which is totally true. The VLC player is another option. But anyway, it's just experimenting with that. If your video had enough lead time in it as well, if it kind of included some pre-roll, then it might be fine. And you just know you just don't touch that computer and away it goes and plays. So, but
okay,
yeah,
what's VLC?
VLC is just like QuickTime. It's another player, it's free bit of software that you can download, and it just plays any video. Like it actually is really good for playing obscure video codecs and things like that. So, and it works on Mac or PC. So,
Okay.
but there's lots of options, right? But you just need to do something that you're comfortable with, and that you're not going to reveal that this is a video playing. You bump the mouse at some point and now you see, the timeline and you can see that the video's only got, how long left or things like that, then that's going to throw the audience a bit. So anyway,
Got it. Okay. Y'all been really helpful. Thank you.
Great. No worries. Welcome, Blue. Nice to have you here. Next question.
Yes. So Jeff said, can an option be added to resize emojis or change the speed of animation? We use branded emojis and it's very hard to see on our wall.
I really like that. I really like that idea. I mean, the answer, Jeff, is that anything's possible. Can it be added? Yeah, it can be. Will it be? Maybe. I like that idea, and I think we could add it to the wish list, because I really like the emojis feature, and I've been thinking about. I've seen some other things around the interwebs that have made me think about how we could improve that as well. But I'm going to add it. I'm going to add it to our wish list, and we'll see what happens. But it's a great point. I think being able to change the speed of it, particularly if you've got some detail in those, and that's the thing, right? You're using different branded emojis.
Yes. Heather's saying that it's possible to resize. I was looking. Yes, Blue, you're correct. I was thinking the production page. If I throw it up on an LED wall or green screen, that's where we're losing.
Yeah,
people can't tell what it is.
Have you tried zooming?
Right. Yeah, I was just going to say that. Just go.
Oh, so you can zoom the page, right? I don't know if you've done that. So, if you're using Chrome and you go on full screen, and then you do Mac or PC, but on a Mac it'll be Command plus and minus. So you're literally just zooming, and that's going to zoom. It will zoom the emojis at that point.
Yeah, I've thought of doing that. What I'm doing right now is I'm using the image feature on the production page. So for those that aren't familiar, you can either upload an image and have that be the background, which I use green screen typically, or you can use a Luma key, but then you've got to do some keying. So I'm using the background, so it zooms a little too far on the background. So the background looks a little out of whack. That's why I wondered if the emojis might be able to be adjusted independently.
Okay, yeah.
For the chroma key, you're not just. Do you have a logo in the background, or not just a green square?
So yeah, right now this is just actual green screen behind me, and then I'm doing the key in the ATEM itself. But I'm doing the chroma key, and I'm not running the emojis through that. So I'm just bringing my laptop with the production page is plugged into a different input on the ATEM, and I'm just switching over there, and then that switches the background as well when we want to use that feature.
Don't zoom it at the ATEM level. Don't zoom it in the ATEM. So don't use the flying key to actually zoom up the Luma key. Actually, just inside of Safari, Command plus.
Okay.
Because that'll zoom everything on the page, and the only thing on the page is the emojis, unless you're using the background color or background image.
Yeah, I am. I'm using the background. If you're
using a background image, you may have a problem. If you're using just a background color, you shouldn't.
Okay. I might need to try to do it a different way. For our workflow as is, it was easier to put the background image on the emoji or production page. And then that way, when I switch to that input, it switches the background automatically.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I
might just be an additional step.
Well, and you may just have to play around with using, because you're likely outputting a 1920 by 1080 video signal from your computer. So you may just have to contemplate, and I don't know how this works. I actually don't know if this would work, but I wonder if just messing with the background image itself, right? Like actually making the background image a little bit smaller than it needs to be. So that when you zoom it out, it kind of fills the space the way you want it to, and the emojis grow at the same time. I don't know if that would work.
Yeah, I think that's what Justin's suggesting here in chat as well. So yeah, good idea to test a couple things.
Yeah.
Yeah, and these are
trying to steal your thunder.
So you don't, and you can't use, you don't have another key you can use because you're already using that key for your background there. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm on the ATEM Mini Pro. So I think I'm already set.
You
can go on the list of reasons to get an extreme. But for this particular room, I'm on the Pro.
You could use an upstream key and a luminance, and keep it on black. Keep the background black and do a luminance key on an upstream key, because you can do. I'm just trying to think now. If you can do a downstream key and you can do an upstream key as well, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, I think there's a way to do it, and I just don't know how, to be honest. It was easier to upload the background image.
Yeah, fair enough. Justin or Muddy can have a think about this. I'm having a look, and I know that I've got the Pro that I'm running at the moment, and there's a downstream key and there's an upstream key. You may be able to play with that, and do a luminance over the top, and then you'd have a lot more control, and then you could be putting it over you as well, right? If you wanted. So
yeah,
in theory, you could have your background as well as emojis over the top of you. So that could be pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But the actual question, I think, is valid, and I think we'll add it to our wish list.
Love it. Thanks.
Cool. Great. Next question.
The next question is also from Jeff. He asks, can a second sign-up form be added? We would like to assign a group to one set of users and assign a tag to a separate set. Is there any chance the URL could say something other than sign up? Some attendees are simply joining a meeting and the language is a bit confusing.
It seems like you switched questions halfway through typing that. So
that's what I thought too.
Yeah. So the answer to the first half of the question, which is, can you have two different sign-up pages and apply two different tags based on which sign-up page they go to, is no. Not at this time. Interesting idea. My suspicion is that rather than do that, we would go into Marketplace and use complimentary tickets inside of Marketplace as opposed to the sign-up feature. And each ticket type can have its own groups or tags that get applied on purchase of that specific ticket type. And then you can also get direct links to that ticket type so that the ticket selector in Marketplace only shows the one ticket type, even if you have 5 in it. So that's the way I would probably go. So there's a function already built in to Obvio that would do what you're talking about. Now, admittedly, the Marketplace is a little bit, I'm going to revert to calling it alpha rather than beta for now, and until we we work out the solution that we're trying really, really hard to get out to you guys, which is the new version of Marketplace, which will solve a bunch of other issues and then be easier to use. So anyway, that's the direction I would probably be headed rather than 2 sign-up pages. I can't in this moment see a reason to do that with that particular feature. Of course, I could just be saying an iPod will never have a color screen because why would you want to watch a video on it? So anyway, who knows?
Blue, what about using the step 2 and doing a form after sign up?
Well, it depends what's the purpose for the second, like I know he's saying there's 2 different types of people.
Yeah, you're categorizing people, right, Jeff?
Yep. So I'm using this for some ongoing coaching, and then as a part of it, schools get curriculum. So I want to give the administrator access to resources that I don't necessarily want to share with the teachers. So what I'm doing as of right now is I'm creating an attendee that's the name of the school with just an internal email of ours, using that magic link to give them access to the dashboard and then tagging that user as a group. The administrator, I give them, I put it in their first name, their last name, and then they have a rule applied to them that's called admin. And so then they, with that tag, they can see all sorts of resources that the staff may not be able to. So the problem is the administrator, they want to add people like their secretary or their counselor that have access to those resources as well. So I thought, shoot, if I had a sign up for administration only and a sign up for like teachers only, they could create their own accounts and then get the access level they needed right off the bat.
Yeah, Marketplace.
Yeah, I mean the other thing you could potentially do is inside of the area, allow multiple, recreate the area, allow multiple connections per user, and then just allow them to share the magic link. Say if let the administrator say to the administrator, if you would like a member of your team to have access to that, just go ahead and share it with them. If they come into Zoom or when they come into Zoom, you'll come in with the same name, but we'll be able to rename you once you get in there. That's a little, maybe as a temporary solution.
It's more for dashboard access. Like the teachers, I don't think will ever join a Zoom meeting unless other than outside of like one presentation, most of the workshops are with the administration.
Yeah, then unless you need it for tracking purposes, just let them share the login, the magic link.
Okay.
Because, you can have 100 people join the dashboard with the same magic link.
Yeah, and you could even set a tag on that magic link that doesn't allow them Zoom access if you wanted to, right? So that's not how they access Zoom. Right? Yeah. They can only access the resources, and if they want to, or when they access Zoom, they use their own, or whatever, right? They use more of a general.
What was the second part of that question, Heather? There was something about like all of a sudden it gets confusing because then they join Zoom, and I missed that.
The sign up.
Yeah. I checked off that question because I thought that we got to it, so that's my bad.
It's okay. It's just that the URL says sign up. And I've had a couple of folks that were confused that are like, oh, I already signed up for this. Like, why do I have to sign up again? Whereas I think they were looking for a button that says like join or join meeting or something. And so I just wondered at some point if that URL was configurable or if there was a different way to, they were just confused by that. Like sign up, they thought like sign up for the program or sign up, almost like subscribe to an email list. There's been a little bit of confusion around that of like, no, I already signed up. Like we've got this workshop on the calendar. I just want to sign in or join.
Do you remind me, Jeff, do you have an enterprise account?
I don't. I have the founders account and then like the Leap Pro.
The Leap, which is Pro. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to put too fine a point on it, but I mean, you could just use a URL shortener and rename the URL to whatever you want. It's a little hacky, but and the reason I was asking if you have an enterprise account is the enterprise account actually has a URL redirector built into it for a number of crazy reasons. But you could do it that way. The other thing, and then the actual sign up button you can modify the sign up button to be whatever you want. So there's that.
I've done that already. Just to try to make it simpler. They're saying sign up and as the link they click in the URL, Calendly or calendar system. Yeah. And that's where the confusion is coming.
Well, and that's where I would say just, the short-term fix is set yourself up with a Rebrandly account and use a domain and use a shortener. If it's causing enough problems, that's a quick, easy fix. I know it's not an Obvio related fix necessarily. But I don't know, just because of how you're using it, it's a little unique, right? Yeah. Rebrandly
that solves the problem. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a handful of tools in my toolbox, and Rebrandly is one of them that I use every day. There's lots of things that I use it for, and it just it works really, really well. So, great. Next question.
Muddy said, I love the new join flow from Obvio backend. Have you had any luck with the pop-up permissions from co-hosts who join from Safari? I know you guys are working on it.
It's already fixed. It was fixed on Monday, I believe. So now what happens when you click join, there is a it opens up a new tab, and there's a loading page similar to the attendee experience, which wasn't there previously. And then it redirects to Zoom. So that's fixed. It make fix. It's good.
All right. The next question is also from Muddy. He said, do all of the templates allow agendas to be created? If so, do they all update automatically to the attendees' time zone?
No, they don't. Not all of them. 3 out of the 5 do. So Cards, Classic, and Lefty all allow for the agenda to be created within the platform. Nifty and Panels do not. Generally speaking, what our users are doing is they're putting the agenda inside of a blog post. But the blog posts...
Blue's just boring himself. You're putting yourself to sleep.
Why you gotta be like that? It's no need to point out the fact that I'm yawning. They already know.
Okay, sorry.
So so the short answer is no, but we are working on something, Muddy, to try and resolve that, which is to bring a slightly more robust agenda system into the application. And my guess is that we probably won't see that until early next year, but that's on the roadmap, which will solve the couple of templates that don't have it natively. Thank you, Amy. I really appreciate that.
I have thought of Blue as a hothead, so the yawning will help. Sorry, I feel like I've given you a few weeks off, so I'm just making up for it. All right, next question.
Rita asks, can we give a role access to export attendees that does not also give them access to the event settings?
No.
Well, I know the answer is no. Maybe that wasn't worded correctly. That was the can we is would you allow because we're letting our client pull their attendees so they can put them in their own communication, their Zoho, to send out emails, and so that way they can do it at their pleasure. But I didn't want them to have access to the settings so that they could start playing around.
Okay.
It was just because the attendee tools, doesn't show up on the attendee page.
No, I know. Yeah. So, roles are an interesting beast, right? Because there are so many different roles, and I already think we have too many clickable options, and not everybody knows what all the different roles do. And there are a couple of things that some days I wish were different, and some days I think I'm really happy with, right? Because like the ability to modify attendees, most people who have that ability shouldn't also be able to export, right? And generally speaking, the people who are able to export are usually customers only want, like our users only want people to be able to export attendee lists who own the attendee lists, right? Like I don't want my team to be able to just export my entire attendee list. I mean, I don't really care, but because they know, hopefully they know better. There's a whole bunch of documentation in place to actually make sure that they know better. But, I know most of our clients don't want their team to just be able to export their lists. So we made a conscious choice to limit some of the more advanced features like import and export and clear all attendees to only people who have access to the settings for an event. Because we kind of made the assumption that if you are allowing somebody to have export functionality, they're probably a more advanced level attendee or advanced level user, and you're okay with them having access to settings for the event. So I understand your particular use case, Dorita. I'm trying to be a little bit protective of that particular roles page because it's already too many, in my opinion. But with that being said, you're not the first person to ask this question, this particular one. First person in a while, but you're not the first person to do it. So,
Dorita, have you got any other integrations happening on that? Like, is there some syncing that's going on with other things or Zapier integration or anything there? You don't on that one?
We could, but I'm not interested in doing that with their people in this way. So they want to keep everything in their Zoho and send all their communications that way. So it's just been a matter of pulling it and giving it to them. And so they have a marketing person that we were going to allow because her name is on, that's the one we've been adding to the account and trying to figure out how to make sure the email worked. So she's the only one with access. And that way she can pull it and communicate, information to their attendees. Yeah.
Yeah. No, so obviously Zapier could connect with Zoho, but I get the idea of trying to keep all that separate. My thought was not to do that, but an intermediary step, which would be to have Zapier populate a Google Sheet. And now there's just always that Google Sheet is always has the attendee list in it always. And then she can just do exports from that. She's got easy access to that. She doesn't have to access Obvio at all. So
is that just like a YouTube search, like how to get Zapier to, is that just a YouTube search to figure out how to do that? I don't want to take up time here, and I'm not.
That's okay. Look,
thinking
Muddy's
about it
made
at the
a video.
moment.
Well,
of course, Muddy made a video. Of course, Muddy made a video.
But yeah, it isn't terribly difficult. Zapier, once you've installed the Obvio app in Zapier, then you'll see the you sort of triggering it, and so you're saying when a new attendee is added, then add it to a sheet, a Google Sheet, or any other thing. You could do lots of other things with it as well, but a Google Sheet would be great because it's collaborative and things like that. So there you go. It looks like they're going to work it out. Muddy's going to work it out for you and send it to you.
Okay. Heather, is my other question kind of far down? Because I got to run.
Yeah, there's
She's wanted to jump the queue.
No, I'm not. I just
it's fine.
We have about 5 more questions before that one.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Bump it up, he says. We can do it now. If he needs to go, that's okay.
His other question was, how and when are charges applied for paid marketplace tickets?
At the time of purchase.
All right, good chat.
No, no. I guess what I'm saying. Well, maybe I just want to make sure I'm clear so I can explain it to them. So there's a fee for Obvio, and then there's a fee for Stripe.
Yep.
And so there's not like at the end, like at when the events start, like there's some collective, or that you mean they're just kind of getting hit for every single charge?
It's done the same way so how Stripe works is when you process let's use round numbers because it's easier. When you process $100 charge on Stripe, you don't get $100 and then they come back and ask you for $2.70. You get $97. They just take it before you even get the money. They take their 280 or whatever the number is, right? Because what 2.8% plus 35 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So they take their fee and then they give you what's left.
And
the way
what about
it works
yours?
with the way they do the same thing with the Obvio marketplace fee. So and let's, again, using round numbers, let's just say it's 3% for both. If you sell $100 ticket, you will receive $94 because Stripe takes care of their fee and they take care of the processing fee.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it's one-off, right? So it's never like there's never going to be a big bill that gets accumulated. It just happens.
It's just the net in terms of what they receive in their Stripe account. Okay.
You got it.
All right.
Yeah, the
Perfect.
exact same way
Appreciate
that, the payment gateways work. It's just you don't ever get the full amount, you get the net amount.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next question is from Jeff. He said around 10:30 Eastern today, I was unable to get the Zoom areas to load. The page kept spinning. I refreshed the browser several times, and this appeared to be isolated to Obvio. Were there any known outages or service interruptions on the platform? I reached out to James in support.
Yeah, so around 10:30 for a really brief period of time, there was a database spike that we're still trying to figure out why. Actually, I was just reading something from one of our dev team and it looks like they found it. So that's good. But yes, I wouldn't necessarily call it an outage. No attendees were affected. Obvio was just moving slowly for a few minutes. From what I understand, nobody got any server outages or server network issues. I didn't hear, we had two fairly large events that were starting around the same time. I didn't get any reports from either of those clients that said that their attendees were experiencing slowness or outages. So it feels like it was also limited to the Obvio admin, not to the dashboard area. But yeah, right around that time, there was a brief spike in usage.
That explains it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Stephen, did you see that network error what you saw when you tried to join Zoom? Is that it came up as a Zoom error? Type faster. Clicking the join the call. Yeah, so it I think it would have been a Zoom error that said network error in once Zoom had popped up and then network error. If that
I hadn't actually got to Zoom yet. I had not got to Zoom. So it was just clicking the button. It said network error and I was still on the dashboard.
Okay.
And I had to use my personal password. The magic link didn't actually connect me in.
Okay. We'll do a little more testing. I'm glad that we have everyone else in, as in you know what I mean? Like something was working, and maybe there was just a little thing there, but
Yeah. I got past it.
Well, yeah, it is one of the side effects of having an open system like we have that allows people to use integrations and things like that, and we're hunting down where that can be abused in a way, or unintentionally people are making a change, for example, to a big list of their attendees, and that's all flooding back into Obvio. And there's those things that you don't know until we experience it, and then we have to put controls in place to manage that, because we may not have initially thought of that when we have a system that can be accessed automatically by other services. And so there's things like that we are constantly working on. So any of those, what's great is screenshots and things of that sort of stuff. When you see errors and things, like we get screenshots, that tells us so much, and we can get on to fixing it. So yeah. Give Obvio a yawn. All right, next question.
Muddy said, could you set up a rule to allow an attendee to start an Obvio Zoom room or area from a button on the dashboard? And if so, why is this not a good idea?
So many reasons. Okay, so Muddy, what's your use case? Can you explain your use case to me? I'm just curious what the structure is that you're looking for. Are you looking for an event to be self-hosted without you having to show up in it?
My ADD brain thought of this question when I was listening to Amy's earlier comments, how she's getting some past students, grad students, essentially, to help open rooms and welcome folks in. So she's giving them access to the admin area so they can get in and open a room and start a meeting. And so I just, let my ADD brain type a question in that we probably don't need to spend time answering here, which is why I said, why is this not a bad idea? I know it's a bad idea.
No, it's not necessarily
I'm
bad.
Just
idea.
Curious if it's possible so that I could put up an event and have a client start their own meeting without me needing to be there, without admin access, right?
Yeah. So we really rarely talk about enterprise only features on these calls because so few users are enterprise users. And interestingly, what you're saying is kind of possible as an enterprise user. There are ways you can't open areas, but you can open rooms and start them. And with that being said, areas don't automatically turn off. So you can turn on an area in advance. And then if you're an enterprise user, there's a series of tags that you can apply to certain users to give them access to certain rooms. And what it does is it opens up an access panel that is only shown to attendees who have the correct tags. And it doesn't give them access to all the areas. It gives them access to specific areas that you allow for. And then there's an extra layer of service or an extra layer of permission, which allows you to define whether or not you want that person to be able to join as a host, meaning they can open the room, as a co-host, meaning they will only be able to join rooms that are already open and have one person in them, or as an attendee. And you may wonder why, as an attendee, we have some larger scale events where crew members who we don't want to have any permissions, but they do need to be able to bounce back and forth between the different rooms, may need to go from room 1 to room 5 to room 2 to room 7. This feature allows them to do that without having any permission and without ever having to go into Obvio. So there is something that exists, and I'm happy to walk you through how to use it if it's something that you really want to do at some point in the future. But I think we'd probably keep that for either a private call or a really late in the second hour call, because it really is a feature that applies to nobody else on this call.
Do an enterprise only call at some point, maybe.
Yeah.
So, you're spot on, Muddy. Like, you could see that we had a need for this, and it is something that I keep thinking about as well, even for sponsors as an example, like having a sponsor panel where they can start their own meeting within a certain time frame and things like that. So there's ways of extending it, but we needed it for big events, and I've used it for some workshop things as well, and often I've used it for allowing the stakeholders to be able to jump around through if I have concurrent meetings happening. Even though I hate doing that, but if we have concurrent meetings happening, then they're able to jump through and jump into different meetings. Makes it really easy.
Yeah.
So,
and this is essentially what it looks like, Muddy. Right? They can pick this person that I'm logged in as has main stage access. And they can log into like room 10, and they can either join as a co-host or join as an attendee. So it's, like I said, it's there, but it's a lesser known feature.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
All right. Next question.
Our next question is from Heather. Her client just hit another wall on credits this week. I think they've spent over $1,000 on credits. I wanted to get them upgraded. This is for the Love American Homes. We talked about them, I think, a call or two ago.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this as well. I don't remember if this was an internal conversation, Heather James, that you and I and Grant had, or if Heather Havenwood was part of it. But we're happy to take a look at what they've spent, have you upgrade them to enterprise, and then offset expenses that they would not have had they been on enterprise for the last 6 months with a credit back. So
Okay, so they're ready to do that this week. Yes, sir.
Great. So yeah, step one is just to actually go ahead and upgrade to them to enterprise. And incidentally, we only do that credit on annual subscriptions, so not on monthly. They'd have to upgrade to enterprise for the year, and then Grant or myself will take a look at what they've spent on credits or add-ons in the last 6 months, determine whether or not as an enterprise user they would have had to, because as an enterprise user, you double your event capacity, but you still have an event capacity, right? It's 1,000 instead of 500, and then add-ons are half the price, right? So an add-on for 250 attendees is $50 at the enterprise level instead of 100. An add-on for an extra Zoom room, which I know you have not purchased, but again, same thing, instead of $100 for 30 days, it's 50. So we'll credit back the appropriate amount based on the assumption that what would they have had to pay if they were an enterprise client for the last 6 months. Yeah. And you can safely assume that at the very least it's 50. It'll be a credit of 50% of the add-ons that they've paid for.
Okay, and then the enterprise is $4,997 for the year. Is that right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so you want me to go ahead and upgrade and then email you guys when it's complete, have you guys look at that, and you'll just credit back the credit card or
and
whatever.
We'll let you know what we credit back, and when we do, Stripe will automatically issue you a credit refund email, so you'll see the transaction having taken place as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, that happened.
Or they'll see it. Like I don't know, whoever's email address is the owner of the account will actually get that.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Blue.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Our next question is from Lizzie. She says, I'm a new user of Obvio. I have been gathering my equipment and suggested items that I have purchased. When I travel to a location, what microphones would you suggest using at a panelist table of up to 6 people? What microphone for the speaker? What do you suggest when I'm interviewing someone to cut out noise when on location, not in the studio room?
So for panels, I think if you watch a lot of panels out there, more often than not, you're going to see, like at events, you're going to see handhelds. And generally speaking, there's a specific reason for it. It's not because they look pretty, but it's because lavs, like the body worn microphones, generally speaking, tend to take up or take in more noise, more volume, more ambient sounds, whereas handheld microphones tend to be a little bit more directional. And if you're in a really noisy environment, you can get different mics that are even more like super directional, like super cardioid mics that really have to be spoken into. And the amount of background, like if there's somebody literally standing right next to you, unless you point the microphone in their face, you'll barely hear them. It's the type of microphones that you'll see newscasters use on location, things like that. And if you watch stuff like that, especially when you see somebody who's like in the middle of Times Square during New Year's Eve, and they're having a conversation with somebody right next to them, and you don't hear the, whatever million people who are around them screaming, that's the type of microphone they're using. So that's probably the direction I would go. It's not a good answer because they tend to be expensive. Although you can probably start with wired microphones for something like that, but wireless is generally the best way to go, and they're not inexpensive.
It also depends if you've got an audience in the room as well. Like if you're doing this sort of on a stage, or if it's literally just kind of podcasting and sort of you've just got your panel in one room and there's no audience. There's for some, and that's more like podcasting then, right? And then that's when you often see boom mics, boom stands, and all sorts of video podcasts you'll see where people have big sort of radio microphones because the sound is the most important. And I've just posted a link to my favorite headset, which is a Audio-Technica microphone headset. And so that has a standard microphone plug on it, an XLR, and also a headphone. And if you coupled that with something like the Rode Podcaster, I've seen quite a lot of. I actually did an event where a traveling podcast would come to expos, and they would plug this. They would plug these headsets, and they have an amazing podcast in a really noisy environment. And the advantage with that headset is, of course, it's really easy to just jump it on and you can swap people out, and they can hear you and they can be seen. Anyway, so I really like those. I had a bunch of them and did podcasts when I was in LA. Loved it. Cool. Next question.
We are actually out of questions at the moment.
Cool. So while we're waiting on you guys to think about if you have additional questions, so we've talked a little bit, or it was mentioned earlier, the new process to get into Zoom from an attendee's or from a user's perspective. And there's nothing new, no new action you have to take. It's still go to the area and click start or join on the area page or on the room page. But what's taking place in the background is significantly different than what was taking place before. You are now going into Zoom as, first off, something called an alternate host. What does it really mean to you guys? Nothing. There are no real functional changes. Everything that you can do as the host, you can do as the alternate host, with one exceptionally minor exception. As an alternate host, you cannot reclaim host, which shouldn't be a problem for anybody on this call and for probably 99% of our users. The only reason that you would have to reclaim host is if for some reason somebody else joined Zoom and removed your host privileges. And honestly, the easiest way to fix that is leave Zoom and go right back in through Obvio, and the problem will resolve itself. In addition to that, as Muddy said, you now come into Zoom with your account name. Right. So whatever name is on your account, in my account name's case, it's Blue Melnick. You come in to Zoom with your account name in place. And with that being said, there's also a new page or some additions to the change password page inside of Obvio. It's no longer actually called change password. It's now called account. And if you click on account, you see that you can actually change your first and last name. So some of you just may want to do that for one reason or another. And it's this first and last name at the account level that is used to name you inside of Zoom. And then you don't have to enter your current password or new password on this page if you are just updating your name. If I wanted to make my name plural, I would just click update and my account's been updated. If you do want to change the password, that's when you need your current password as well as your new password and to confirm that. But the first and last name is simply update your first and last name and click update and you're good to go. So in addition to, to being named inside of Zoom, some of you may have noticed if you have done events with more than one person who enters through the Obvio admin into Zoom, you may have noticed that text or chat DMs have been off for a while. Basically, what was taking place is anybody who came in through the Obvio back end appeared to be the same person. So when we were in calls like this, and Heather and Grant and myself were all in this event, even if we renamed ourselves, if you tried to DM us, you didn't really know. I mean, you may not have realized this, but Zoom didn't really know who to send it to. So it just kind of sent it to one of us randomly. So that issue, which is something that has been kind of lingering in the background, has been resolved as well. So we're really excited about it. And probably the most functional thing is the one that Jeff Veely mentioned in the Facebook group, which is just, you can now have all of your team members name themselves in their account at the account level. And however they're named at the account level, that's how they get named when they come into Zoom. So no longer having to rename 10 people in Zoom if you have a whole bunch of team members who come in through Obvio, which we think is pretty awesome. That's the, from an update perspective, that's probably the biggest one. Then there have been some minor system upgrades that we've been working on over the course of the last couple of weeks. I think some of you noticed that over the weekend, I don't remember if it was this weekend or if it was last weekend, there was a brief outage for about 15 minutes. So we've been working on changes to our infrastructure to have that no longer take place. So I think we've made some good inroads with that. Although at 10 a.m. this morning, there was another weird little issue. So again, the team has been working on that as well. So anyway, lots of little things behind the scenes to continue to make Obvio run smoothly so that your events don't get thrown off when there's a spike in usage because we've continued to see an uptick in usage. Like as an example, right now, there's 4 events happening, a couple for, one for over 3,000, one for over 1,500, and then a few for, just under 200. So we've continued to see increased usage of the platform, which we love. And it means we get to continue to work on keeping the platform stable, regardless of the amount of people who are on it. So that's been our main focus the last week or so, which has put off the release of Marketplace a little bit, but we're coming. I had a long conversation with the lead developer who was working on that, and I kind of said, okay, Tyler, here's your new deadline. We can't miss this one. So I've given him a new deadline, and I'm not going to tell you what that is, but I feel hopeful that it's coming soon. And I hope that I don't have to continue to just say I feel hopeful and actually be able to give you a firm date really soon. So that's where we are.
I keep calling it Marketplace Beta version 2.
BV2.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a big change. And one that has been fun to work on. Anyway, did that allow us to have any more
we have
questions?
one more.
Okay.
John said, do you recommend a hardware playback device for playing pre-recorded content versus finding another computer and feeding the computer output? Assume an ATEM is upstream and sending the feed to the Zoom meeting.
Yeah, I think we probably have, we may have the same opinion on this, but I'll share mine and then I'll let Grant share his. We use a dedicated video playback computer for playing videos. The piece of software that we use to play videos for our events in our studios is a product called QLab. It's a really solid piece of software. And oddly enough, for our implementation, it doesn't cost anything. It can cost, right? They do have paid versions of QLab, but for what we use it for, we're able to just use it straight out of the box without any additional payments. So for us, it's free, which probably means for most of you, it could be as well. Before using QLab, we used to use Keynote, where we would just drop, because we were trying to eliminate what Grant was talking about, which is like you accidentally move the mouse on a computer and all of a sudden the video playback head, bar comes up and people realize it's a video rather than thinking it was live. So we used to use Keynote before we started using QLab. But then the problem with Keynote was we never knew where we were in the video unless you had to, click it start on a timer at the same time that you click start on a video to really see where you were. If you were playing a 45-minute long video or even a 2-minute long video, where are you in the video? One of the things that I like about the dedicated video playback software is it can give you a playhead, right? It tells you where you are in the video playback, allowing you to keep track of, okay, guys, I can tell my team, hey, we're 60 seconds from this video being over. Let's get the talent, get them mic'd and get them on stage, and then as the video counts down to 0, we can, count it down as well. So we know exactly when to transition from the video playback computer back to live. So that's what we use. I've seen people who use hardware playback devices. They tend to be really expensive for good ones. So that's my thought. Grant?
Yeah, so same. I use QLab, and to Blue's point about the free version, if you're using just one display output and just a standard left-right audio output, then it will be free. But it can run really complex theater shows and lots of channels and lots of display outputs and things. And you can rent it, and it's basically rent to own as well. Like it's $5 a day. And then that they remember how many times you rented it, and eventually if you pay for the whole thing, then you get the whole thing. It's amazing business model. So we love QLab. I do pay for it because I have a Blackmagic card that runs on my Mac Mini, and so I have SDI that comes directly out of QLab, which is really sweet. But I would recommend, I don't know, Playout B. Good work, Muddy. I was just about to say exactly the same thing. A guy we know, super smart dude from Germany has created this software that is multi platform, and it's designed specifically to play videos, and it can be used. You can control it remotely, from another computer. It also, which may be of interest to you, uses the Blackmagic Hyperdeck protocol, so you can control it from an ATEM switcher, meaning that when you cut to that input, it can autoplay from an ATEM. So it's very, very clever. Yeah, and he just added a bunch of new features as well, Blue, to it. So Jonas is his name, is super smart dude. So it's interesting when you get people. What's particularly good about this is that when you, I think that's part of the success, or the what makes Obvio so great is that it comes from people who are doing it all the time. We're constantly running events, and so we know the types of things that we want. And same with Jonas. So he runs events all the time. He's doing live events, online events, And so he's built a purpose-built player to be able to do this. And people, can run it on a Raspberry Pi, and you can make sort of a dedicated little thing. So, and you can loop, and you can, he's added top and tail now, so you can actually put in and out points and playlists and all that sort of stuff. So it's pretty cool. So it's worth looking at. Cool,
is it app-based, or is it, it looks like it's,
it is.
Is it a web interface that is basically controlling like the FFM player or whatever the hell it's called?
Not quite. It is a web browser sort of based system. But what he's done is purposely separated out the control of that. So he's made a web interface for it that you can control everything from a separate device. You can do multi-screen with it. So you can, have multiple outputs, but yeah, also having the hyperdeck protocol in there is really, really cool. So it just so ATEMs just sees it as a hyperdeck, and so that some cool timer stuff on it as well, countdowns and things like that. It's pretty advanced. Yeah, and companion as well module. Just on that, for just while we're geeking out for a moment, stagetimer.io that I use all the time, and incidentally is another German developer who's super smart, has a companion module. Do you use Stagetimer, Marty? Have you seen the companion module? Yeah. Oh, okay. So the new companion module for Stagetimer has triggers built into it. Blue, I don't know if you've messed around with this, but what's really nice with it now is you can trigger things in companion based on the time or what's happening with the timer. And so my use case for an event just recently was we were putting a time to screen in a hotel. And so we needed the timer to go up on the screen every time the speaker was going to speak. Everyone could see the timer, and we had it as a nice little downstream key sitting on the top. Same when we were taking that feed back into Obvio, and now we could have this little bug that just showed the timer. As soon as that got to 0, or as soon as we needed to stop it for some reason, it would auto trigger the downstream key to fade off on the ATEM. And then as soon as the timer started rolling, it would auto bring the downstream key on, and no one had to touch anything. Also, if you want to hit blackout on it, it would take the key off and bring it back on. And so I started playing around with automating some of those. Lots of these events that we do, particularly long ones, it's just a handful of things that you're doing over and over and over again. And so anytime you can automate some of that is very powerful. So yeah, stagetimer.io is super cool. Once again, we handed out a couple of old tablets I had, and I just gave them to speakers or chair people or whatever that needed to see it, or we send the link. I've done that lots with Obvio calls. We have a timer, and we send the link to some of our speakers, and now they can open up on an iPad, and now they know exactly the timing that they need to keep to. So yeah, anyway, just while we were speaking about German developers, that's what made me think about it. They know what they're on about. All right, any other questions, Heather?
No.
All right. Oh, what happened?
Can I ask a question from here?
Jenny, sure, go.
Good, thank you. Hi, all. And I'm sure you've answered this, and I think I may know the answer. Blue, I'm taking you up on your suggestion to go live every day. I started this past Monday, and I want to stream this to LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube. Do I have to get a restream tool to do that? Is there any way to do that other than having a restream tool through Obvio or anything else, or plugin, or?
I mean, I guess you could have a bunch of computers, each of them streaming to an individual system. But outside of that, no. You're probably going to need a third-party service that can stream out to multiple destinations.
Good. Thank you so much. And then I'm using I got the trial of StreamYard versus Restream, which and I also have Vimeo Pro, and I thought about upgrading my Vimeo. Vimeo looked like it was a little bit more complicated to do that process though.
So every service is a little different. Restream.io is pretty purpose-built with the exact purpose of ingesting an RTMP feed from an encoder, whether it's Zoom or something else. You could do it from a whole number of sources to get to Restream, and then to stream out to a number of different services. And when you look at the multi-destination services that are out there, I'm pretty sure Restream probably has the most natively built in, and then they all generally also support RTMP destinations as well. StreamYard, if memory serves, StreamYard really started as a web-based webcam enhancement tool,
like studio,
right?
Yeah,
where you could take your camera feed and you could do some fun stuff. You could add lower thirds. You could do some software-based graphical switching. Essentially, you could have another person join you on a web-based call because they were using, I think, WebRTC, and then have that go out to a destination. My current understanding, I don't believe it can go into Zoom though, because of the fact that it's browser based, although that may have changed. And I was actually looking at this today because we have a client who has StreamYard, and they're wanting to do multiple destinations, and StreamYard also does have built into it a multi-destination service. I don't know how it works. We haven't tested it yet, but I know that it exists because I was looking at their site today for a client who's wanting to use it. So
I'm using that now. I'm doing that now.
Yeah. So that, I don't know that one is better than the other, outside of saying that Restream.io is really purpose-built. Like, that's the only thing it's built for. And I generally, as a rule, prefer to use purpose-built tools rather than kind of jack of all trade tools. But I also don't like who owns StreamYard, but that's just a personal issue.
Restream it is. Thank you so much. And Vimeo Live, or Vimeo, what is it called? Professional?
Vimeo,
whatever
yeah.
it is
So Vimeo
streaming.
purchased Vimeo Live is a really messed up product because a couple of years ago they bought livestream.com, and their transition to having a single service has been really confusing. I don't know if it's gotten any better in the last 12 months or so. But prior to that, like if you used to use Livestream, they still had this like fork in the road. And there were two different types of services, and some of their services work better if you also buy the Livestream software versus not. Like there's a whole confusing level of shit that goes along with Vimeo Live. At least there was.
Clean show.
Clean
show.
Yeah. Sorry, I remember that. A whole bunch of stuff.
Nonsense.
Nonsense. Yeah, that's definitely a good word for it. So if I was, Vimeo is more of I would see Vimeo as more of a service that you're actually going to stream to, right? The only reason that I would be using Vimeo is if I was actually also going to use the destination of Vimeo. Because I think generally their live streaming product is also more expensive than the other Restream products, even though you can also stream out to other destinations, as is being shown here by Grant.
Yeah, I don't know.
It is.
I don't know if that's the case now. The pricing, because it has changed. So the advanced pricing now, I don't know. That's 80. It's 80 Australian. I don't know. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, it's $75, I think, in their.
No, I think it's cheaper than that now. I think it's cheaper than that now. The advanced, they have a new plan. Because it's only like $80 Australian, so it can't be that in the world currency of, like, it must be 49 or something, I think, a month.
Oh, wow.
And you do that as an annual plan. It actually is quite good. But yeah, I agree. I still have to use, as one particular platform that we do some stuff on that needs Vimeo, and so we use it quite a bit. And they've changed some things around, but I have used that restream function before, like the destinations, and it worked really well. And I think lots of them are using a very similar thing that like Amazon Web Services provides. I think it's probably that in the background for doing the restreaming, because then you have to think about the what we've talked about before, when you segment your audience across, like all these different places, and you're not necessarily serving the community well when they're all in different places. You want to get that critical mass onto one platform ultimately, and maybe that's part of your strategy, right? Is for them to see you, catch you live on one, and then get you across into the one place you want them to come. Maybe that's Obvio, but yeah, then you've got critical mass on one platform, and you're able to give specific community instruction for that one platform, so it's just something to think
Outstanding.
about. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yep, it's definitely that. I want to do list building and stream in a bunch of different places, and if they want to actually join me, they can come on Obvio and join me. But
Nice.
they're yep. So restream it is. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Cool.
Appreciate you.
Mm-hmm. So I saw Jenny here. She put her hand up, and then she just gave up. She's like, I'm not waiting for these guys. I think that's so.
Hey,
yes.
Does Vimeo Live still have a number of viewing hours that you can use per month? How does
it's bandwidth now?
Is it the 2 terabytes a month? Is that basically what that is?
Mm-hmm.
And that's whether it's live or pre-recorded. It's just it's a
correct. Yep. And they didn't used to say that. It didn't used to. It didn't used to be explicit that that's how much bandwidth. It was a fair use policy. And I blew through that a couple of times, and then they sort of said, "Hey, you're in the 95th percentile of bandwidth usage for the month. Maybe you should be talking to us about the enterprise plan." And then you talk to them about the enterprise plan.
That was when they had Vimeo Pro that was unlimited, but not really.
Yeah, and then the enterprise plan will be like $12,000 US a year. It'll be like the jump is absurd. And they don't give you that much. There wasn't that much difference,
that was the other reason that I generally despise Vimeo.
But I had that again, and the thing was, once they brought this 2 terabyte thing in, I was like, oh yeah, and I started looking at some other things. Lots of other plans or other services have like their annual bandwidth usage. So the fact that Vimeo is still, it's a monthly bandwidth usage. I still find it really good for on-demand content. You can lock down what domains that it can be embedded on. The player is customizable, colors and no branding and white labeled. So, and I've never had a problem with end users being able to play back content. So I've used Vimeo on Obvio dashboards a lot, and I'm very happy with it, and it's very cost effective for what you can do. I've started to use the live stream element sparingly because I've just had a few problems with it along the way. So
hey, back to Stage Timer. Is there I was looking at the scene. Are there any other questions, or is this just like Blue and Grant get the chat time?
Guys, get your moment.
Okay, awesome, great. All right,
let's
that's cool. I'm glad there's no questions. It's fantastic. So for Stage Timer, one of the reasons that we haven't actually moved to it is it's not uncommon for us to have 2 timers up simultaneously with Stage Timer 2 with the app.
Uh-huh.
Have you And we looked into stagetimer.io, I want to say about 6 months ago, and came really, really close. And that for us was the reason why we decided not to start using it. Is there
So give me the example of what are the two timers, like end of session and end of speaking or something like that?
Yep. Yeah, that's the most common. The secondary most common is to have a time of day and countdown simultaneously.
Oh, you can do that. Yes, you can do that. So, it's called here. Look at that, countdown and time of day. Let me trigger that. Let me get rid of my message. There you go.
Got it. And then the two timers. Where was that? I missed it. Sorry, I got distracted by
I can't do two. I can't. I don't think I can do two timers on the screen within this, but I can do time of the day and time.
Got it.
So, this is the other thing they added. This is a request that I asked for, is chimes. We use that a little bit, and it's just like you can do a little ding, at different times, or you do it on 0, which is really cool. And of course, you can route that wherever you want that to go from an audio point of view. That's really nice. But yeah, it really is that you can get rid of. So count up and time of day. Time of day count up and hidden. I just wanted to get rid of that. There we go. Get rid of that, and you can get rid of the. Yeah, you can also get.
And you can get rid of the bar as well. I know that.
Yeah. So, and you can even do teleprompter.
Yeah.
There's some really cool features. So just for those that have never seen this, I know we're demoing totally another piece of software, but just something that we love. You can send this link to anybody in the world, and they can just have a simple view that looks great on a phone, a tablet, whatever. And so sometimes we just run that in OBS, in Obvio calls, in sort of our green room or whatever, and you can plug that address into OBS, and now that is just playing as a virtual camera into Obvio, into a Zoom call, and now everyone can see the same time. So yeah, we really like it. But yeah, I don't reckon you could do two. There's no reason why, of course, you couldn't lay it out yourself and have, obviously have two different windows.
Yeah, no, I know.
Right.
And that was actually one of our, or even just having it on two different computers, and then do like a super source or something along those lines, or do like two upstream keys.
Right.
On a black background. We can make it work, but for the amount of stuff that we're already using on all 4 of the different MEs in studio, like adding this didn't work. I never actually thought I'd run out of stuff like that, but we're literally using every single ME, almost every single event.
I'm sure. Yeah. This sort of stuff just works really nicely, and then we were pushing comments and stuff really easily. And for virtual events, this is such a no-brainer. I had an event that we were in person as well. There was a hybrid. That speaking of clean show, hybrid should be a cuss word we're not allowed to say, but it was. I was in person, but I had someone in Bangkok. One of our team members in Bangkok was running the timer for the event, and just so cool, like to have what would be a traditional role of someone sitting in the room was no different at all to have them sitting in another country running the timer for us, so things like that. Pretty cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Sweet. All right. Well, if nobody has any other questions, we're just killing time right now, folks.
Or any other demo of German developed software.
Yeah. Any other ideas of stuff we should be buying? I've already bought one piece of software on this call.
PlayHub.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
I was like, I want to play with this. This looks awesome.
And you can use it on. He was even saying like older hardware. If the older hardware could play, if you could open up in a browser and you could go to YouTube and play a 1080p, video fine, then it will work. And so there's like old Intel NUCs and things, or Mac Minis or things like that. It can be really good for it. An old machine that's just sitting around, you can make it work.
I mean, I have it running on a Raspberry Pi. It doesn't take a lot of horsepower.
Is it playing back off the Raspberry Pi as well?
Yep. Raspberry Pi. It's a headless Raspberry Pi too, and it's the HDMI source that comes into my switcher. So this is, I don't have a video up on it right now, but this is the output from the Raspberry Pi.
That's cool.
Yeah, and version 2, which just came out, being able to do tops and tails right inside the editor. I mean, you just trim the playheads and it'll just play what you need. That's pretty slick.
Yeah, it's really cool. I'm going to say goodbye so that I can get my kids to school. So it's good timing. Thank you, everyone.
Good time, everybody. Thanks all.
Bye-bye.
We'll see y'all next week.
Bye.